Our first keynote this afternoon is none other than Chris Ford. So who is this guy? He's a distinguished Toastmaster and has been a member of Toastmasters International forever. Okay, well, like 4 decades forever. Chris was the District 61 governor in 1998 and 99, followed by a term as an international director in 2000 and 2002. And then the international president in 2007 to 2008. Also as a career Army guy, having retired as a brigadier general at the turn of the century, he now runs his own small business, generally speaking. To say that we live in a different world now than 7 months ago would be an understatement. Are you feeling depressed, despondent, desperate? Good, then let's celebrate. Please welcome our keynote speaker with his presentation, Pandemic, Politics, Paranoia, Pessimism, What's Not to Celebrate? Chris Ford.
And good afternoon, everybody. And isn't that a catchy title for a keynote presentation? Wow. Pandemic, Politics, Paranoia, and Pessimism. Well, hopefully by the end of this presentation, I will have helped lift you out of that somewhat. Look at that image. It's a beautiful world, isn't it? Except now it's infested and dominated with the coronavirus, and we live in a pandemic. You all know that. You're all living it. And then we have, concurrent with the pandemic, never-ending politics. You know, you turn on any TV station, radio station, social media, newspapers if they still exist, and what do we read about? Pandemic and politics. Now listen, politics, I don't want to make this a partisan discussion. It's not about Trudeau and O'Toole. It's not about Biden and Trump. It's about the politics of our countries right now. And I would submit to you that just listening to the discussions, wouldn't even call them debates, not a lot of fun. But I think there is some fun in these two images. If you look at the Peace Tower and our Parliament buildings, and you see the eternal flame burning, it never stops. And you look at the White House, and for our American friends, that's your symbol of the government of the day. And you know what? You've got a beautiful fountain in front of the White House. So I take you back to the War of 1812, when we Canadians were keep burning down the White House. True, it was British troops stationed in what is now Canada that burned down the White House. But ever since, we've kept the eternal flame going just in case we need it again. And the White House keeps the fountain going just in case they need to put the fire out. So that's being prepared. So with pandemic and politics going on, one would be forgiven for being a little bit paranoid. And don't forget, even if they aren't out to get you, it doesn't mean you're not paranoid. Think about that. It's no surprise that some people might feel quite pessimistic these days. I do from time to time. Many of you may have experienced that too. All right, given these things, the pandemic, the politics, the paranoia, and the pessimism, what can we do about this situation? Well, what's not to celebrate? Surely we can find things that we can celebrate despite all that's going on right now. And I think we have to dig deep. We just have to find it within ourselves to get beyond this, to find some things that we can celebrate. Like this guy. Look at this guy digging deep. He knows what he's doing. Now that's, you tell a soldier to dig, he or she will dig, and they'll keep digging until you tell them to stop. And this guy hasn't been told to stop yet, so he's digging. And oh, by the way, I do acknowledge this guy is topless, so this is the only bit of porn you're going to see in this whole presentation. That's as racy as it can get. Folks, I want to take you to Amici, Bosnia, 1993. I was there on a peace support operational mission. And I just want to share with you some of the things that I saw there. In this little town of Amici, which is made up of main Croats and Bosnian Muslims, or Bosniaks as they're called, in about equal numbers. When the war broke out, fighting started even within the villages, within the limits of the village where people had been living side by side for years, for generations. And look at this, one side toppled the minaret, which is, of course, the symbol of the Muslim faith. A terrible thing to do to a community. And by the way, what I'm saying is not one-sided, because all three sides, the Croats, the Bosnian Muslims, and the Serbs, were all committing atrocities against another. But look at this. Sometime later, in the latter part of April '93, I went to visit this little town, and I stopped by and chatted through my interpreter with this family, a fascinating conversation. You'll note, absent from this picture are any adult males. They're all off fighting the war. But what impressed me was these people are all smiling, they appear happy. They have found something to celebrate, even in terrible, terrible times of this war going on in Bosnia. In that same town, a burnt out house, and all sides had very thorough and effective techniques of making houses inhabitable, basically by torching them, and then as the occupants fled, shooting them. And that happened, unfortunately, far too much. But I stopped by this scene. Amidst all that rubble, this little girl has found something to celebrate. She's found bits and pieces of toys, or maybe it's just rocks. I don't know. She has been able to dig deep and find something worth celebrating. Now, these two little guys up on the left side, I have no clue what they're doing, but you know, they're little boys, probably up to no good. Fast forward another 4 years, back in Bosnia, this primarily on an engineering mission, and my role was to coordinate engineer activities in Bosnia. And the war officially was over by then, and we started rebuilding. Those don't look like luxury houses, but I tell you, the people moved in, loved them. The park area, and what you're seeing there is a mine-sniffing dog. The dog finds the mines, and then the deminers either explode in place or pull them out. Again, there's a celebration there because by having these dogs and the deminers, we were able to clear parks and playgrounds and so forth and allow people to use them again. See the bridge that's an ex-bridge, a former bridge there. Our engineer Ford built a bridge connecting two sides of the community. And that was worthy of celebration. And roadways and railways too, we were able to restore those to start pulling this country back together, to give them reasons to celebrate despite the atrocities of the war. And as a result, this guy came home a happy camper with my team. We had done some good stuff and been able to celebrate with the locals and come home feeling, well, you know, we'd done good, so to speak, and we were proud of it. Reasons to celebrate. So every cloud has a silver lining. Sometimes it's not evident. Sometimes you really have to dig for it. Well, how do you dig a cloud? I'm not sure. But think about it. The cloud has a silver lining, and it's up to us to try to find it. So we do have reasons to celebrate. We just celebrated Canadian Thanksgiving. Well, that obviously was pre-pandemic. They're not wearing any masks, although a few of them are actually wearing masks on their heads, now that I think of it. But we got together, well, actually, no, we didn't because we weren't allowed to. But in our own ways, we found celebration, found joy for the blessings that we do have. Our American friends, and maybe there are folks online from our club in Watertown or elsewhere in the United States, you'll be celebrating your Thanksgiving in a few weeks. You know, I've always wondered why they celebrating around early to mid-October and our American friends in late November. Well, I think it just shows that we get thankful sooner and they get thankful later. Maybe they got 6 more weeks to get thankful and have a real blowout celebration. But we have these things that we can celebrate in different ways because of the pandemic. You know, if you want something to celebrate, you're stuck one day. What am I going to celebrate today? You can go on any number of websites and find out what is the World Day of, what is the International Day or the National Day. Do you know today is? There you go. World Singing Day. Some of you wanted to sing earlier. Here's your chance to do it. But because of coronavirus, just do it by yourself in the shower for a while because we don't want to be germs all over people. So there's something to celebrate. Joel Osteen, an evangelical preacher down in the States, here's what he said. And note he says, nothing happens to you, it happens for you, positive and negative events. It's, in other words, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it that counts. Similar, it happens for you to provoke something, to stimulate you, to enable you to do something that is positive, no matter the circumstances. Well, what do we have to celebrate? The 2020 virtual convention, you talk about an organizational pivoting when World Headquarters and TI writ large went from the Paris Convention, which a lot of people were looking forward to a virtual convention. The Paris Convention might have attracted 4,000 people. The virtual convention had 60,000 registrations. 60,000. That's more than we could ever dream of attending a convention. So if you think the new normal is going to be just like the old normal, I think we've got a message here and we really have to examine that message for implications for the future. Our own district, and we heard earlier today that the district pivoted in about 6 weeks from conference in Montreal to conference online and still managed to attract around 350 members. That's as good as or better than most of our recent conferences. So that was pretty impressive. We've got pathways, and I submit to you that ways happened just in time. I can't imagine that if we were still dealing with the legacy program and pathways at the same time online, I think that would have been a real challenge. But we got pathways in on time, we're all doing it, and I think it really helps with the online experience. And you know what? We've got our clubs. Our other homes. I found this club online. What a name for a Toastmasters club. Celebration Toastmasters. They must have awesome meetings. And speaking of, Manitic Toastmasters, my home club, has awesome meetings. Now, if those of you who are counting, you'll count 13 in there. I assure you we finished the year with 20 members. But we all have our own clubs with our own people. And that's the point. The people in the club make it the club, make it our home, and we are there to support one another. I go back to Nicky Yanofsky's song, I Believe in the Power of You and I. And even though that's grammatically incorrect, let me talk about me for just a second. I love talking about me. I want to tell you a personal story that happened this year. There's my beautiful mother, who passed away at the end of April. We were not able to go and see her before her death. We were not able to have a live in-person funeral. But my sisters and I found it within ourselves that we wanted to celebrate this beautiful life of 94 years. And so we did a virtual funeral and a virtual celebration of life. And that was a lot of fun, celebrating life online, rather than just giving up and saying that we can't do it. But you know, as one life fades, another one starts. 2 weeks later, my newest grandson, Theo, was born. He's a cute little guy, and I haven't met him yet because he lives in Luxembourg. I can't go there. He can't come here. And so I could wallow in self-pity and say, you know, I can't see my newest grandson. That is a significant loss. But I can see him, and I do see him almost every week on Skype, sometimes on Zoom. I can see the little guy growing up. He's about 5 months old now. That's the circle of life, friends. Life starts, ends, new life starts and goes on. And we will go on too. We will go on because in our lives, we will learn how to deal with the challenges that we've got. And I know you're all facing challenges. Probability and statistics tells me that there are a number of people in our district who are dealing with all these things. Some of these things, maybe only one of these things is affecting you now. Maybe many of these things are affecting you now. And sometimes one would be forgiven for being despondent and depressed. What can we possibly do in the face of all of this? My message to me, my message to you is don't give up. Don't give up hope. Find something. Dig deeper. I don't care how deep you have to go, but I think we've got to find it within ourselves, the little gem, the activity that we can replicate online, the things that we can do to give our lives meaning, even though we've been robbed of other aspects of our lives. It's still about you. You know, those who are going to come through this are tough people, tough teams. Tough times don't last. Tough teams do. I submit to you, we've got a tough team here in Toastmasters in District 61. This wonderful district is still functioning. It is still performing at a high level, no matter the circumstances. Tough people on tough teams will last. Think about your own family team, or you and your partner, or maybe it's a workplace team, or maybe it's something in your community that you can do, that you can get together, that you can be tough so that you will last and you will get through this and maybe come out stronger at the end. You know, can you find something to celebrate with your team, whether it's a victory, a recent contract acquired, new ways of doing business in these tough times? You know, are there opportunities for you to blow up the balloons? Again, I got to caution you, don't do like that. This is obviously pre-COVID because none of them are wearing masks, and blowing up balloons is not a good thing in times of the pandemic. But they found something to celebrate. Can we do that? Can we find something to celebrate in these tough times? Even stopping to smell the rose or the roses once in a while. And that rose is a beautiful flower. Maybe that rose for you represents a grandchild or a relative that you haven't spoken to in some time. Maybe that rose represents a small family celebration. Maybe you had one at Thanksgiving, and who knows what Christmas is going to look like. Maybe that rose represents for you a new business opportunity, or a coming together more closely with family and friends. Find the roses. Find them soon, because, you know, in a couple of months they'll be covered with snow. Let's make sure we get our quota of roses while we still can. Folks, this celebration is about you. We're celebrating you today. And as the slide says, you're not invincible. We see you, we thank you, and we're celebrating you for what you do. We're celebrating us for what we do, for hanging in there, for keeping Toastmasters International alive and well in District 61. So the pessimist is going to look at the glass half empty. We know that. The optimist says it's half full. And me, well, I say, yay, there's room to add vodka. So after this, guess what I'm going to do? Add a bit of vodka. Folks, what's not to celebrate during these tough times? As I hope I've demonstrated, there's lots to celebrate. You just got to dig a little bit deeper to find it. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chris. Oh my God, that's awesome. You know, I'm going to ask everybody to unmute themselves and give a big round of applause because this time.
Merci, Chris.
So much.
Hey, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you.
So amazing.
Merci. Merci beaucoup.